What's up, you guys? All right, so if you watch any of our live videos, we talk about there's always shenanigans on this side of it. I told Brandon that he looks like he's from Night of Roxbury.
Yeah, and you're sharing it. Good idea.
So I start with a smile. So I literally just said, okay,
at my expense.
We're going to do A, B, and C. And he goes, what are we doing? And I was like, okay, let's go. And he goes, no, seriously, what are we doing? So what are we doing today, you guys? So lots of stuff going on in the world right now. We did a live last night on the CrossFit Surge page just about kind of life and what's going on. But I want to give you guys some more strategies, I think, that make a little more sense than just the fear strategy. So we want to talk about the actual things you can do for your physical body so that you can guard yourself and boost your immune system. And then we're going to talk about sort of the other side of this with the fear and the anxiety and the stress and all of that kind of stuff. So let's start with the physical part first.
Well, first off, you guys, if you watched the video last night, I was mistaken. I said on there, and I got several people reaching out to me and corrected me on there, which I appreciate.
We have a really smart community, you guys.
Yes. One thing that we absolutely are blessed to have is a very intelligent crew around us. That I said the virus was airborne. It's not. It's actually through water droplets that come from saliva, coughing, sneezing, that kind of interaction. So I said last night it was airborne. I was wrong. It doesn't come from that. All
so
right.
we don't have to have the doors open. So I didn't need to wear my puffy coat this morning at 5:15, but we did. Okay. So we want to give you guys kind of a different way to maybe look at this and the strategies that we're employing, and not to say that some of a little bit of both aren't a bad idea. But what we can actually do to, if you guys have listened to us for the last 5 months, we've been talking gut health and immunity and all of the things. And sure enough, looks like this is what we were prepping for, and we didn't even know that. So we want to kind of dive into that with you guys.
So with that, you guys, if you've been part of our Shift Project, you know that we're all about questions, right? It's about bringing in questions and bringing about what is driving our focus. And I think right now, and we talked about it last night when it comes to uncertainty, you're seeing a lot of oh boy, I don't know what's going on here. All of a sudden, the aisles and aisles of food and toilet paper and everything else are being just emptied out at every shape and corner. People are being rude, whatever it may be, right? But you're seeing a lot of just despair and chaos happening in the world. And so the point of this today, you guys, is first off, asking the question we often ask a lot is, what is great about this problem? Because right now it's a problem, but usually in times of problems, that also elicits an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for us to maybe shed some light on an area that we were maybe blind to initially. And so with this, you guys, is the part that we talk oftentimes with clients on is getting from a side of always in constant defense and reactionary mode in our life, and getting on a side of offense and what can you create in your life. Because oftentimes what we deal with, and we did this forever, there's still aspects that we go through this, is we are in reactionary mode of I'm letting my external life, I'm letting life dictate what's happening to me, as opposed to understanding that life is happening for me, not to me. Right? Like life is happening for us in perfect timing, but in how I go about in that creation and how I go about in the mode of which I can come from, a place of empowerment, is what's going to allow me to do that. And so perhaps this opportunity right now, perhaps that you can label as a problem, whatever you want to label it, but it's an opportunity for growth. Perhaps this right now is a way for us to shed light on the fact of this isn't going away anytime soon. Okay, so I think first off, letting yourself kind of let that sink in, of understand that this isn't going to go away in the next week or so. All right, there's the stuff that we've been finding, the statistics, what the experts, the people that are in charge of these departments in our country, in our world, are saying anywhere between 3 months being at its peak potentially, to 7 months to 9 months where it could be potentially dwindling down. So I want you to kind of think about that, and first and foremost, take a breath. All right, take a breath. I'll let Courtney go over that with you, but take a breath and allow that to kind of sink in, and allow yourself to, okay, what is this game? All this chaos is going on in right now, and we're only essentially really a week into this thing. What's 3 months going to look like when this thing potentially has a chance to going tenfold of what it is, right? What's that going to look like in a year, right? And if we don't get a better maybe form or a different relationship with a lot of the things that are going on, or maybe a different understanding, things can spin out of control really, really quickly. All right. So the goal with this, you guys, is give yourself some ammunition, perhaps shift our focus a little bit, come from a different sense of, okay, it's not ideal, right? But at the same time, what is this here to teach me, and what can I gain from it?
Yeah, because it's happening, right? Like, schools are closed. Like, this is something that none of us have probably lived through. So, like, this is happening. So we now have a choice of what we do around it, how we feel, how we handle it, what we get to learn through this, you know, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of that whole side of the Shift project. But we want to start really, you guys, with, you know, what can we learn from this? And on a physical stance, obviously we're all about helping you guys take care of all parts of you, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual. So we want to talk about, on the physical side, I think there's two different ways to look at it. So there's the idea of, you know, we're going to war, and we can either like hope that it doesn't happen and hope that the battle doesn't happen, and we can try to clean all the things and sanitize all the things and do all the hand washing and have all the toilet paper and have that, and like hope that we don't get exposed. Or the other side of it is like, we're going to war, and we're probably, most of us, I think they said the stats are like up to 70% are going to be exposed to the virus, not actually get it. But Brian actually told us they thought 20 to 50% would actually contract
it in some shape, and that's worldwide.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's worldwide in some shape or some form. Right. One of our other clientele that's at the gym in the medical field said, you know, that most cases, it's like 2% are actually in the high realm of when you contract the virus. 2% of those that contract it are actually at a high level of risk for being mortally whatever on there. The rest of it are very low incidences of the degree of what they're having it.
Right. So if we want to look at this, so it's like, okay, so if we're going to war, so you either can avoid it and hope the war doesn't find you, which is probably not really going to work, and like, yes, be smart. But the other side of it is like, how do you arm yourself, right? So like, if you think about going to battle, you have different lines. You have a front line. You have the guys with the guns. You have the guys with the knives, and then you have the guys with the bazooka. And so what we want to do is be able to give you guys the tools.
I hope you have the guys with the knives up front, not the secondary. But whatever.
Whatever. I mean, I don't go to war often, you guys. So anyway, you have these.
We're reading The Art of War, Sun Tzu. Check it out.
You have these different, but the whole idea is that we want to actually arm ourselves, because if the thought is that most of us are going to probably come in contact with this, unless we legit don't leave our house for 3 months, and then you're going to have a whole lot of other issues that we could talk about on the emotional side, but like, we're probably going to come in contact with this. So what do we need to do to take care of our physical bodies so that we have a less chance of, if we come in contact with it, A, getting it, and B, if we get it, that it affects us in a really bad way. And so that's what we want to give you guys, that idea of like, well, we're probably going to come in contact with it. So everything we've been talking about with our 10-day reset, with our gut health, with immunity, like, that's where this all comes in. And we also want you guys to understand this isn't just like bury your head in the sand for 2 weeks and hope that by then it's all going to go away. So there's no point in like doing all the things and getting your gut and getting your immune system back on the right track, because this is going to stick around. And quite honestly, doing all of these things are also going to help every other virus that you come in contact with. So we should all be doing these things anyway. So when we talked about it, we're like, well, what do we get to learn from this? Well, we all get to learn that like, there are some really big things that maybe a lot of us aren't doing that we now get to do. And we get to learn, and we get to learn more about our bodies and how they work and all that kind of stuff. So we want to give you guys the tools to have the bazooka, so when you do come in contact with it, you're okay.
So when it comes to your immune system, you guys, because really when we're talking about virus, disease, and everything else, it's your immune function. It's the men in front, men and women, men and women in the front lines that are in the battle, that are reaching out and killing our foreign invaders that are happening within us. And so when we're talking about your gut, you guys, we're talking about essentially digestive function, between when you take something in, it goes down through your esophagus into your stomach, where it's broken down with acidic acid, goes into your liver, and then is into your small intestine, and so on and so forth, distributed through there. But what happens is, when we see immune function, immune compromised, there we go, is when we already have an overwhelming sense of high sugar, a lot of dairy, tons of stress, right? Like, can you see where the world is leading to right now? We're getting a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear going in that. So it's just kind of pumping out more and more of this. Well, what happens is within your gut, within your small intestine, and it basically, it's called your microbiome. It's basically bacteria and fungus. Now that we have millions and millions and billions of different aspects of bacteria and gut of fungus within ourselves. That started from the time we were born, how we were born, the things that our environment, what we've been exposed to, the things that we've eaten over the years, our stress, all these things comprise of different bacteria and fungus within us. That's what basically comprises us. But what happens is, whether it be due to consuming high inflammatory foods, our environment, again, lack of sleep, all these pollution, all these elements also breed both good and bad, but our gut bugs is essentially what they are. Now, what happens on there is when we have an overabundance of bad bacteria, we start to see also an aspect of what is called SIBO, which can induce essentially an inflammatory response, and also can essentially eat away or poke holes in your intestinal wall. Now, why that's important is because when I get permeability of my intestinal wall is essentially proteins, different chemical, all the other aspects of food particles can seep into my bloodstream. Now, when that happens, that's what inflammation comes from. And then my body, because it wants to protect myself, starts producing antibodies, and it starts attacking all these food particles that are naturally seeping into my bloodstream because of the other things I just labeled off there. But what happens on that is, because 80% of your immune function, 80% of your immune system lies within your gut. Now, when that system is compromised because it's attacking essentially the things that we're eating and the things that we're already taking in within ourselves, the system starts attacking itself. That's where autoimmune comes from. So the auto being self, immune it's attacking ourself on there. And then when we have that inflammation going on internally on there, we start to experience a lot of other things. Now, when we have essentially a foreign substance like we're dealing with now, we're already compromising our immune function because it's already fighting our internal self of what we've been digesting, internalizing, all these other things that are going on there. And so we're already essentially in a weakened state because we're not taking taking care of ourselves on a life standpoint that is allowing us to function at its highest realm. And so instead, yet again, it's if you're going to be in essentially reactionary mode and pray that you're never going to be in contact with these things, but probably continue in the same life habits that have gotten you into the sense of potentially being in a lesser state of immune function. And you can see this if you have brain fog, if you have lackadaisical thoughts, if you essentially have congestion, if you have lack of cognition, if you're possibly irritable, right? Like if you have a sense of anxiety, if you have those kind of things going on there, those are also indications that you have inflammation of the gut. The reason because of that is because usually if you have inflammation of the gut, you have inflammation of the brain as well, because it's a loop system that goes up. So what happens in the gut, it goes up to your brain and then comes back down. It's about 80% up, 20% back down. And so usually if you have inflammation of gut, it's called inflammatory brain as well. And that's where usually you get, like I said, anxiety, lack of cognition, brain fog, irritability. If you're not feeling the aspect of being able to feel joyful, those kind of things. The reason because of that is 90% of serotonin, the chemical that allows us to experience happiness, 90% of it is secreted in the gut. And so that travels up to the brain via vagus nerve and everything else. And so that allows us to do that. So if you're having issues with that, that's probably a good indication that you are having issues internally, starting essentially what is called your second brain, being your gut.
Well, and you can feel that, right? Like when we've done a survey where it's like how many people have, are uncomfortable after they eat, and it was like 80 or 90%. It was a crazy amount. So like if you feel bloated, if you obviously aren't like passing food, if you're not having normal bowel movements, like that's all a sign that your gut is compromised. And if your gut is compromised, so is your immune system, which means right now you're in a state where you really need to get a hold of this so that we get a little bit ahead of this, right? Like we're not totally ahead of it because we didn't do this 3 months ago, but like you can get ahead of this as soon as possible. And that's what we want to help you guys do with, obviously there's some dietary things that we need to do. And then there's some supplementation as long as you get the right stuff that will really help this and do it like immediately, right? And so not feeling like we have this like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do if I have these things? Because probably more than 50% of the world does. We want to give you guys actual tools now to how do we actually fix that. Okay, so 3 main things. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think more than anything, you guys, is yet again, come from a place of empowerment of, okay, this is the world we live in right now. What can we do to arm ourselves? What can we do to move us in the direction that potentially, yet again, we don't know that the man with the red hat that has the shirt that says, I have coronavirus, is going to walk up to you. We don't know that, right? But we do know that potentially we're going to be around people. Yes, they're canceling, sporting events and everything else, but how many of you guys gone to the grocery store, right? Like how many thousands of people have gone through there and run muck through that you could be or potentially next to somebody or talking to somebody or passing whatever on. We don't know that. And so yet again, what can you do instead of like wrapping yourself in a bag of antibacterial wipes and everything else, that not to mention, you guys, if you are using that to like the 8th degree, the point of antibacterial is it kills bacteria. There's also good bacteria that fights these things that are coming through here. And so if you're killing bad, you're also killing good. All right. So if you're overusing that stuff, you guys, you're also destroying the things that you're killing your defense along with your offense. So we need to set ourselves up in the best realm that we can.
So I think for most of us, you just assume that you're immunocompromised, right? Like just act like you are and then take all the steps, right? And I mean, if you're somebody that have taken antibiotics, or currently on antibiotics, if you've even had antibiotics in the last year, same thing. Like it's anti, which means it killed everything in your gut. So unfortunately, often we need antibiotics, but the more you take them, the worse your gut biome is, the worse, all of that goes on this, like it goes on this downhill spiral. So what we want you guys to do, we have our 10-day, we'll talk about that at the end. Like we're going to so we've done our 10-day reset. A lot of you guys have done this. It's always been a group program. We're going to change it so that like you could start right now, right? We have 3 months of it. We can make it so it's self-led so you guys can get on this, get this information as soon as possible and get yourself going with it. We said that last month was going to be the last month at the $47 price, but we want to help you guys. So we're going to keep it at that for this month instead of going up to $99. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do something right now, get in the 10-day, do the thing, watch the videos, start tomorrow, right? So we want to talk about the supplements that are actually going to help you as well. Really, again, like we can't just be doing supplements, but adding good quality of the right stuff is going to also help as we start to shift the nutrition and start to arm ourselves that way. So
it will take some time, but the things we want to give you right now are things that you can do right now to kind of get the ball rolling. Right. All right. So essentially there's 3 main ones on this, you guys. The first one is you can get a probiotic. All right, probiotic. Yet again, we're trying to get as much good bacteria in your gut as possible on there. There's a company we've been working with for the last 5 years on there that has a probiotic, pro and prebiotic on there that we highly suggest, that we believe in. You want, we can give you that information on that. But yet again, the more we can arm ourselves with as much good bacteria to, yet again, when those foreign invaders potentially come in there, the more we're going to solidify and help ourselves out on that. All right.
And with probiotics, you guys too, you really got to make sure the quality of the probiotics, because I think there's a crazy stat of how many probiotics actually just the minute they hit stomach acid, they're null and void. And so really making sure that you're getting a good probiotic. And again, if you guys need suggestions, let us know. There's definitely stuff that you could probably get local, online, whatever, but we can help you with what we like to. But make sure you're not just getting like the whatever at Safeway, because that's probably actually just throwing your money away.
Vitamin D3 and K2. The vitamin D you can get, the good thing is for those watching us from Colorado, you can get a lot from sunlight, but I think it's upwards, I think it was like 50% of the world is actually deficient, Yeah, 50% of the population in the world is actually deficient in vitamin D3. It is a natural occurring vitamin. It's the only natural occurring vitamin within us. And so it allows us to, yet again, it's a building block of essentially everything that's within us. And so if assume yet again, you're part of that 50% that is deficient in that will help with all these functions as just adding that in there. The recommendation is between 5 and upwards of 10,000 IUs of D3 and K2 a day on that.
And go outside and get some fresh air.
Yes. Omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. Yet again, that's going to help a lot with cognition and but at the same time, yet again, if it's going to help with cognition, that's also going to help solidify your gut function. And when we're talking about gut function, we're talking about your immunity.
Right, and it also, they've said that vitamin D3 and D6 actually protects the fatty lining of your cells, and that's where a lot of this is getting into our lungs. So it's going to give you another wall of defense as far as if the virus does come into your body, of not actually getting incubated. Is that the word?
Sure.
All right.
Let's see here.
So probiotic,
vitamin D3, D3, K2, omega-6, vitamin A, and then the last one is always, of course, when Demi's talking about sickness, is vitamin C. So vitamin C is good, but at the same time, if you're getting like the gas station emergency portion on there, it's not going to be the most high quality. The part with vitamin C is it helps essentially protect the lining of your lung tissue, and so yet again, being this is a respiratory thing on there that can potentially help. If you are doing vitamin C, at least 1,000 milligrams a day on there for 14 days. And then I think the recommendation was 500 milligrams a day after that point.
Okay.
But those are essentially 4 things that you guys can do right now to kind of just help get yourself into hopefully on offense for this thing.
Yeah. So, and then I think the other side of it, good there. You want to talk about the stress portion of life?
Sure.
Okay. So here's the other part, right? So we have this threat, right, that we're all worried about. And if you guys have been to the store, I was there last night. I was there again this morning because the gym really doesn't have any toilet paper, which is sort of funny now. I mean, we have some, but like we didn't stock up because whatever. So I was like, well, maybe if I go early this morning after I drop Carson off. So there was still no toilet paper, but we talked about this last night. Like, there's just this energy, right? There's this weird vibe in the world, and it, like, to me, it feels kind of like a blizzard where everybody's like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know what's going on, but like we know this is a big extended thing, and so there's this weird energy in the world. But and I can feel like a collective fear, right? I'm very empathetic, as we both are, but it's like you can feel this collective fear, and so I think that's the piece that's probably going to be actually more detrimental to most of us, is the worry and the fear and the uncertainty and the unknown, and like, what do I do with this? And oh my gosh, my kids are home for 2 weeks. I think there's more of that going on right now than the actual fear of the virus. From what I've seen to the people around us, is there more of that? And so what we really want you guys to understand is, yes, you need to take care of your physical body. You need to like work on your gut. You need to give yourself a fighting chance. But on the other side of that, if you're doing that and you're like inundating yourself with like watching the news and hearing all of the things, and like, again, make sure where you're getting your information, right? Like the news is a for-profit company, right? And so when they get attention, they make money. So like, if you're in a stressed out state about this, if you have anxiety, if you have fear, like, don't let that into your life 24/7, right? Like, don't let it in as much as possible. Like, get educated and be wise, but pay attention to what's going on there, right? And so I think there's a few things that I think are really important on how do we actually deal with this fear. And so we're not gonna revisit the uncertainty talk we had last night, but if you want to go see it, go to the CrossFit Surge Facebook page and watch that. But I think there's big things that people can do. I am a like crazy person when it comes to morning routine. And the reason that I'm so like, you need a morning routine, it's one of the things that will change your life, is because morning routine will give you some kind of certainty, right? It allows you to actually create space and time and calm in your life, especially in a world right now that doesn't feel very calm, right? There's not a lot of calm in anyone, right? And so getting up, I've got some meditations. I'm going to bundle my meditations. If you guys want to grab those, I can get them out to you. I think there's like 15 of them. So if you want some meditations, if you're like, I don't even know where to start, this sounds like a great plan, but how do I even do this, right? So giving yourself that morning time where you can really create space and create time, breathe, right? And Brina was talking about the vagus nerve, but the thing about breath, even if you just take 5 minutes and just breathe in for a count of 5 seconds and breathe out for a count of 5 seconds and do that for 5 minutes, it's going to calm down your nervous system, right? So it's going to actually... We laugh because Brandon is like, he's so resistant to my breath work. So getting some time where you can be quiet, finding some space, understanding that you're still in creation, right? Like life is not happening to you. You still have the power to create your reality and the power to act or react to this. And if you get yourself in a reactive state, all of a sudden it feels chaotic, right? You can feel that people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to deal with certainty. Like it's not a cool feeling. And so we want to give you guys tools. So we need to meditate. We need to have a morning routine. We need to make sure we're sleeping because stress is super, super, super hard on your body. And if you're stressing about it and you're not sleeping and you're not recovering and you're not taking care of yourself, this whole thing is going to go down. It's going to go bad fast, right? I mean, we're all probably doing it anyway, but now there's this extra little not little, but there's an extra threat coming at you, right? So this is the time where we really need to heighten. How are you feeling? How are you dealing with your emotions? Where can you have awareness, right? Like we talk about awareness all the time, but awareness is really the biggest piece is like, can you be aware of what's happening with you, right? And I said this today, I was walking around Target and I sort of felt like I was in a movie, right? Like I was watching everybody in their chaos and I'm like, I'm pretty grounded and centered still because I've been doing the morning routine, I've been doing the things, and I'm just like, wow, it's really interesting to watch, and it's really interesting to observe people and to observe myself and observe some of the stuff that's kind of gotten me where I'm like, oh, okay, that like, you know, that I was totally whatever to the whole thing, and then the NBA shut down and now schools are shutting down. I'm like, okay, I gotta see how I want to handle this, right? And so bringing awareness with curiosity and without judgment is going to really lead you into a different place where you can create calm. And so you can start to understand, like, you get to still be the creator of your life and this isn't happening to you. And there's no reason that we need to go into fear and anxiety. And if you have anxiety, I'm not saying like, oh, don't have anxiety. That's not how it works. But doing breath work. I'm doing a session tomorrow at the gym at 6:30. Come do that because you're going to start to like see the power of breath and what it can actually do to calm down your system so that knowing going forward that this is a 9-month thing that you're armed with some actual tools on how to do that.
Well, and with that, you guys, is, you know, the whole point of of what we started Shift is because as human beings, we love to compartmentalize our life. Right? Like it's the same thing we see with clients that come to us because they have an injury or something like that. Well, I injured myself because I was picking up X, right? And it's like, well, no, we actually injured ourselves because of all this stacking of the other things that led up to that point, right? And it's the same thing with all these things is everything we do throughout our day stacks a little bit. And if I get to the point where I can't stack anymore and all of a sudden potentially something comes knocking on my door that pushes me over the top, I'm not going to be prepared for it, and that's what breaks that straw, right? Where instead of, okay, what can we do to solidify on all these different realms, right? Like not just on a standpoint of hoping that doesn't come knocking on my door, but more importantly, like, okay, if that does knock on my door, how can I create more of a gap that I could stack more on there without pushing over that line where all of a sudden I get sick or I get hurt or I get mental, whatever way it may be on there. How can we do that with being able to be in the side of offense, not defense? And so that's why this is so much more than just, you know, eat this XYZ. It's looking at all standpoints of who you are and how you can go about bringing this into a place of empowerment for yourself.
So yeah, so we're going to keep coming at you guys, giving you guys as much info as we can. We'll drop the link for the 10-day. So if you want the 10-day, let us know, get yourself, you know, just start do the things, right? Like don't sit back and worry, do the things, learn all the things. The 10-day is packed full of not only the gut and the energy side of things, but it's also the mental, the emotional, the needs, like the 10 days.
Well, if you are feeling that sense of uncertainty, which I think we all are, right? Like there's a bunch of fear being thrown around everywhere. Like, right? Like there's no set specific, this is what in the direction is going to be in. Even if you do that work, you guys, the overwhelming sense that we've had for the last 4 months that we've been doing this with people that have gone through the 10-day is I feel so much better for my day-to-day, right? Like, yet again, if this isn't going away for the next potential 7 to 9 months, how can we get ahead of it? How can we be proactive instead of reactive and get ourselves into a better set, right? Like, this is maybe your opportunity for this to shed some light on, wow, you know what? I've been neglecting so many things of these areas in my life. Maybe now it's an opportunity for you to now shed some light on there, open the door for yourself, and see that by doing this, now you get to essentially not come from a place of fear.
All right, guys, unfortunately, I'm late for a meeting. So we love y'all. We'll see you soon. Thanks for hopping on. Let us know what questions you have, how we can help. We're always here for you guys. So hope you're having an awesome Friday and enjoy all the time with your kids. All right, guys, take care.